Would really like to welcome the Vietnam Association for Victims of Agent Orange from Vietnam. It's so nice to see you here, and it's especially nice, I think, when you're travelling to visit a person's home, because then you meet people as friends. And we also have members from the Vietnam Embassy. I haven't actually had a chance to meet you, but yeah, welcome and thank you for coming. And yes, hi. It's lovely to have you all. And I just want to thank Penny so much for making her home available here. And a couple of you, I think, are going to be lucky enough to spend the night here and see a little bit more of home life in a Canberra home. We have Sue Wareham, who a lot of you will know. Where are you, Sue? Oh, you're there, yeah. Sue's going to address us, and then we'll be hearing from members of the delegation as well. So thank you for coming, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
It's actually a great... Sue, would you like to come and sit this spot so we can take some pictures? It's a great pleasure to be here with you all, with such a lively and big crowd. And a particular welcome to the members of the embassy, the Vietnamese embassy, and the members of the delegation, and those of you who are travelling to be here. It's wonderful to see you here. So it is a great pleasure, but it's of course not a great pleasure to have to consider this particular topic of Agent Orange. And I think if we look back on all the environmental catastrophes that have been associated with warfare over the past half century, the past century, then the Agent Orange disaster has got to be up there among the worst. To me, one of the very worst things that has been done to the environment in times of war. And of course particularly bad because the effects will go on for decades and are continuing still. And I think it's particularly sobering and makes us reflect on the nature of warfare that this substance was used in such enormous quantities during the 1960s over fairly large areas of Vietnam, even when it was known that Agent Orange, the dioxin component, was toxic. We know that it's cancer-inducing. We know that the fetus is particularly susceptible, more susceptible than adults are to the effects of Agent Orange. And for all these reasons and the fact that it persists in the environment for decades, it was unconscionable that it was used at all, and particularly that it was used in such large quantities, and that so many people are still suffering, particularly children, from deformities, are still suffering as a result of this substance being used. And it's also makes one extremely sad, cynical to think of the fact that the American veterans of Agent Orange use have received some compensation. It's good that they have, but the Vietnamese victims of this substance have received, to my knowledge, not any, I hope that's wrong, but to my knowledge, not any compensation, although there was a small clean-up. So I think if we don't, it's hard to try to draw any lesson from this, but I think increasingly we need to look at the nature of warfare is often an attack on the natural environment, and as we attack the natural environment, we attack our own capacity to live into the future, and I think the Agent Orange saga is just one of the most terrible examples of this. And I was reflecting also on the fact that 40 whatever years ago, the US and Vietnam were at war, but now move on in history a little, and the United States is trying to develop good relations, which is good, but also trying to develop its military potential out of Vietnam with the use of Canberra Bay. So history is a funny thing and often a very sad thing. So I would like to again welcome the delegation, congratulate you very much on what you're doing and wish you all strength in what you're doing. I hope you have a good reception here in Australia, and I hope that together we can work to try to bring some justice for the victims of this terrible substance, and also a focus on what we do to the environment in future, particularly in times of warfare, and also a focus on the need for accountability of those who produce this substance and who spread it around such large areas of Vietnam. I'm going to be a bit naughty and mention something else because Penny invited me to, but that is the Medical Association for Prevention of War has a particular interest, of course, in the Iraq War and the issue of accountability, and we and a number of others are trying to get an inquiry into how Australia got involved in the Iraq War. And we do have a dinner Wednesday evening next week. If you'd like to come to that, please see me. I've got some flyers and we've got a raffle to raise some money to. So that's a bit naughty. I'm sorry to digress from Vietnam. But, you know, in a way, these issues are pretty common to a lot of wars. What happened in Vietnam was unconscionable, what happened in Iraq was unconscionable. And we really need to get a grip on what we're doing to the environment and to our fellow humans who live over war. So, all strength to the delegation. It's my great pleasure now to introduce Mr. Nguyen Minh Yi from the delegation, who is going to address us also. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, allow me to convey best wishes from our organization, the Vietnam Association of Victims of Agent Orange. Best wishes from millions of victims of Agent Orange, and of course, best wishes from our delegation here. I would like to introduce Mr. Nguyen Văn Linh. He's president, and he's also like MP here in Vietnam. And Mr. Mạnh, our English supporter. And Mr. Trương is the administrator of our association. And my name is Nguyen Minh Yi. If you read my card, then you will pronounce Nguyen Minh White. Yes. And I am in charge of international relations. And by chance, I am assigned to talk with you about the Agent Orange issue. When I was at home...
Sorry, excuse me, we have your slideshow.
Yeah. No, the other.
Oh, okay. The other one?
The woman.
Which one?
Yeah. Women and children.
Okay.
Women and children.
Okay. Women and children, okay.
Yeah.
And then I can change the slides.
Yeah.
Women and children. This one. So, you can just press the buttons when you want to.
Yeah, so you help me, okay?
Okay, you say next.
You follow.
Next.
Yeah. So I was told that I'm going to meet the International Women International for Peace and Freedom. So I think about a subject that is connected with the audience today. But when I come here, there are a lot of gentlemen. So please, apologize. I ask your apology. You feel disturbed, but I don't think that anyone here will feel disturbed by this. Secondly, before I present my issue, I would like to bring something like a present to all of you. That's a Vietnamese proverb. Okay? So in Vietnamese we say hữu duyên thiên lý năng tương ngộ. vô duyên, đối diện, bất tương phùng. So I would like to translate. If we are of the same mind, we will welcome, will be welcome, or we will miss each other. Though we are far away, thousands of miles, but we are not of the same mind. When we are sitting in front of each other, we don't talk anything. So I hope now I have this hand here, because everybody, before hearing what I said, seem to be very well-mannered, seem to be friends of each other for quite a long time. So I'm very happy. Okay. So now, first of all, I would like to give some background of the war. Just make something for something to begin with. You all know that during the war in Vietnam, the American sprayed herbicide, especially from 1961 to 1971. The war, not only herbicide, the war in general have killed about 5 million people until the end of the war. Not only the Vietnamese was being killed during the war, but also, as you know, the other people around Vietnam, the American, the Australian, the New Zealander, and the Korean was also killed together with the Indochinese. The toxic chemical that is supposed to kill people, what the scientists here already know, is dioxin. Dioxin is the main culprit of all of this crime. Only a very, very small quantity or level of dioxin may kill people. That's very popular knowledge. And they drop here in Vietnam, according to Steinman, that's an American scientist, about 300 to 66 kilograms of dioxin have been dropped. And according to Japanese scientists, Russian scientists who had conducted very intensive study in Vietnam, maybe they said that maybe 600 to 1,000 kilograms of dioxin. Can we move? So you have, as what I have said, there are several people of different nationality, of different country, become victims of Agent Orange. But the Vietnamese was the one who suffered most of all of these victims. Why? First, they was directly sprayed, not like Australia. Two, or second, they were subject to several spray. Three, they were subject to different sources of exposure. And four, they are subject to the longest duration of exposure. And the fifth thing that I want to stress here is among the victims, the percentage of women and children and the elderly greatest. Americans have sent about 3,000 persons into the South Vietnam, but only 5,000 women. Why the Vietnamese at that time, the population was 18 million, 50% were women. So because of this, I will proceed with picture or with proof that say or that show the woman was the greatest sufferer of dioxin in Vietnam. Now, I would like to say about the why woman will suffer more. You know that dioxin, when penetrate into its victim body, badly affected the immune system, endocrine system, productive system, genetic system, and this become the major reason for 100 kinds of bad health conditions for people of all sexes and age. As you know, you already know, with the HIV, when immune system was damaged, people were subject to every kind of disease. Not limited within the list acknowledged by the American side. So in Vietnam, we recognize hundreds. We think that hundreds of diseases can be the reason of suffering of people there. Now with the picture, please. Yes.
Next.
Next. And
Go to the picture.
okay, yeah. The characteristic of our first generation victim. You move, please. Because they have to, now almost of them become very old now. 61 and 71 at that time, men like me or Clarence is about 18, 20 years old. And now 45 years have been passed and become 65 or 70. If they still live, they have to live in loneliness, in pain, regular pain, with different kind of cancer and diseases. And particularly for the woman, they have worries about their children. If they die, then who will take care of them? Yes. So many of you here are doctors, so I cannot, like a Vietnamese saying, not going to beat the drum in front of the tender's house. But what I have learned is the dioxin, for the woman, dioxin would not only affect their immune system, endocrine system like men, but also their productive system. Different from men who affect their offspring through contaminated sperm. The contaminated woman may affect their offspring through more gender. In reality, most cases of sterility, miscarriages, still life, or severe birth defect was due to the exposure of mother. And in general, the frequency of giving birth defect due to maternal exposure is much higher than those due to paternal exposure. Due to mother, more than father. Go ahead, please. Go ahead. All about the picture. Very poor. After entering a woman's body, dioxin settling in fatty tissue It is then transferred into blood and milk, which then pass the poison on to progeny and attack their fetuses in the womb or through male gland to damage the newly born baby and make them to come into being with birth defect or to soon develop severe malady. Many children after being born was in good health. No sign of deformity or disease. Like a family, he's the former lieutenant officer in the VAVA. All of his children, when become 18 years old, when they are 18 years old, they become to show symptoms of Agent Orange effect, and most of them was paralyzed. Only just stick with the bed. Birth defect observed include cleft lip. Can you move ahead with the offspring? Absence of nose and eyes, shortened limb, malformed ear, clogged feet, deformed forearm, water on the brain, all or part of the brain missing, and a variety of heart problems. Spina bifida. Spina bifida is very widespread. From what we understand, among the American only recognize the only birth defect that is spina bifida, and there have been about 1,500 among American offspring. The most common birth defect are children born without anuses and chest, or belly linked twins. Some children are delivered without belly skin, thus exposing the intestine and other organs. Nearly all of them suffer the developmental and mental problem. If you visit the center of children that care the children of victims of Agent Orange, then almost of them, not all of them, but about 90% have problem of mental problem. So you see, we have 3 million victims of Agent Orange. But we think that they are, from the fact, the greatest sufferer, the worst sufferer, are women and children. As I already told you, almost American veteran, Australian veteran, are men or male. But many victims of Agent Orange are of Vietnam are female. Well, somebody have been married to Vietnamese woman, so you may agree with me. The Vietnamese women during the time of war made up almost half of our population, both in the north and the south. And they are reasonably praised for their beauty and charm, but also for their bravery, industriousness, and wisdom. I think that one way may be true.
Yes.
During the war, then you move ahead with the picture of Vietnamese during the war. Go ahead. So during the war, in addition to their heavy homework, our women actively participated in the armed forces also, or any organization that can carry out direct and indirect activity to support the war, particularly in the supporting forces. No, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. With this kind of homework of activity, crop planting work, combat supporting work, political struggle activity, our woman was much, of course, more vulnerable to the atrocity of war than men, than anyone else in the society. And we even say that they are more vulnerable to the atrocity than even soldiers in the forefront. Among 3 million victims of Agent Orange, Vietnamese women and children are almost terribly affected. Partly, it is because their physiology, emotion, and living conditions are open to more vulnerable effect than men. So you see, these are women during the war. They was also fighting. They do everything, in the rear. Labor working to bend the rear. You probably have heard about Ho Chi Minh train. That train, has been by women with a very high percentage. And almost the rice field were plowed by the women at that time. And because of this, why I say that the Vietnamese woman was also vulnerable to the atrocity. When they was living in the rear, then the American, the Allied forces, the RV come, they are subject to pacification atrocity at that time. And many of them was put into prison, was kept in the tire jail. So we can say Vietnamese women have to bear the greater part of the tragedy caused by Agent Orange on this land. In many cases, they themselves are victims of Agent Orange. They have to bear the pains of their own disease. But they have to bear also the pain of their children who are born with disability or with deformity. So now if you go to Vietnam to visit the countryside or the family of victims of Agent Orange, you would see the faces, the images of Vietnamese women normally intermingled with the children of deformity. So my final conclusion or my final statement is that we would like to call on all of you to share this unhappiness, this misfortune with our women and children in any way, in emotional way or in material way. Thank you very much.
Can I just say that
Thank you very much. Minister Roddenberry has arrived, so can we welcome him?
Well, good evening everybody. My apologies for being a little late. We were discussing prisons down at the Assembly tonight, and as the Minister for Corrections I needed to stick around. So thank you for the invitation to be here. I'd like to acknowledge first of all, of course, we gather on the lands of the Ngunnawal people, the traditional custodians of this area. I would like to thank Wilf for organising this evening's event, and particularly Sue Wareham from the Medical Association for the Prevention of War. There she is, Sue. How are you? And of course Penny Lockwood for the hosting of this evening. It is a great pleasure to welcome the Canberra members of the Vietnam Association for the Victims of Agent Orange tonight, and the Sydney-based Agent Orange Justice Group. I think we've seen an extraordinary presentation, and whilst I only caught the latter part, I think it tells a story that is hard to fathom when we're sitting here in Canberra without these sort of stories being told to us. I'd certainly like to congratulate the Victims Support Group on its work to help the victims of Agent Orange in Vietnam. This is a challenging issue for them, and we hope the perpetrators of chemical warfare against the people of Vietnam will accept the extent of their responsibility in the future. I did note today in doing some background research that of course it's two companies that are probably very well known to people in this room, Monsanto and Dow Chemicals, who were responsible for the manufacture of Agent Orange. And of course Dow went on to be the company behind the Bhopal accident in India many years later, some years later. And of course they've never accepted responsibility for that either. And so there's these terrible dioxin compounds which are persistent organic pollutants and last for such a long time in the environment leave such a terrible legacy, and the failure to accept responsibility I think is an absolute injustice. Certainly the exposure to millions of tonnes of these toxic chemicals and carcinogenic chemicals in Agent Orange is a continuing tragedy, and I think that's just been very well outlined to us in talking about the number of victims that we see in Vietnam today and the terrible physical and mental side effects that do now affect them. The Agent Orange Justice Group, which is hosting the VAVA delegation, was established in Sydney in 2001, and it is the Australian section of an international campaign across many countries that aims to pressure the US government and the chemical companies which produced Agent Orange to pay to clean up the toxic mess, and which is still contaminating parts of Vietnam. A massive job, but one that is very, very necessary. I think in addition to solidarity with the international campaign, the group also aims to raise awareness of the issue more broadly in the Australian community. It's pressure the Australian government to recognise its responsibilities to all victims of Agent Orange and to link this issue with other anti-war issues. And again, it's a very pertinent point there. People tend to think of war and the immediate casualties and perhaps the direct impact, but the long-lasting impacts are ones that are so much, or have such a significant impact as well, and are perhaps not as well known. And so I think it's very important that those issues are brought to the fore as well. So let me simply conclude by thanking those who've helped put tonight together. I think we've all seen a presentation that will no doubt have a lasting impact on us, and it's very important that we not only hear this story ourselves but tell the story to others when we leave here tonight, to take the opportunity to pass on what we've learnt to others who might also then recognise the injustice and lend their weight to the cause as well. So thank you for being here, and to those who put the evening together.
I'm a Vietnam vet. Well, if you could have our VAVA team have a photograph with you, do you?
Oh, of course. We can do it now when everyone gets back to the festivities of the...
Before you...
I'm not in a hurry now. I'm just late.
Present.
Nice to meet you. Oh yes, of course. Sorry, yes, of course. Not all of my remarks are on this. I shall take this.
just want to say one thing before people disperse.
You'll have to be very quiet to hear her.
We just thought, a couple of us just thought that since we're all here tonight, wouldn't it be a good idea to start something in Canberra to help the victims of Agent Orange both here and abroad, and in Vietnam? I don't know whether anyone wants to be in something like that, but it seems there are enough people here that might want to occasionally sort of talk about this issue together and work out some way we can help the people in Vietnam.
Here.
Yes, absolutely. And now,
Can I just suggest that you follow that up with the email list that you've got?
all right. Yep.
It's gathered that.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Penny, I think that's a great idea. And to get it started, we've got the list that's gone around
Yeah.
and make sure everybody signs. But we've also brought down some campaigning material like the posters and the badges that will make it get off to a decent start in Canberra with material already produced.